To them, it's not because of any long-held ambitions. I know people have been looking through my kindergarten papers. That's not why I'm running. I'm not running because I think it's somehow owed to me. I'm running because of what Dr. King called the fierce urgency of now. The fierce urgency of now. Because I believe there's such a thing as being too late. And that hour is almost upon us. We are at a defining moment in our history. Our nation at war, our planet in peril. The American dream feels like it's slipping away. You know it in your own lives. People working harder for less. Never paid more for heating oil or college education or health care. It's harder to save, it's harder to retire. But the worst part is you've lost trust that your leaders can or will do anything about it. I decided to run because we cannot wait to solve these problems. There is a timetable for change that has to take place. And so now we're seeing Washington respond like it usually responds. You know, this is how it responds to change. What my cousin Dick Cheney that was really embarrassing, by the way. I've been hiding it. You know, you want to be related to somebody cool. Abraham Lincoln or Willie Mays, Tom Brady, but Dick Cheney doesn't look good. But what Cheney would call the last throes of Washington resisting change. You know, so they're saying negative stuff and trying to pick petty fights and distorting people's records and trying to twist words. And, you know, we understand that. Good cause to be angry with Katrina and wiretaps and investigations and corruption. Of course, people are angry, but you know, change doesn't come just from anger. Now, there's no shortage of anger in Washington. There's no shortage of bluster or hot air. There's no shortage of bitter partisanship in Washington. That's not the missing ingredient. We don't need more heat. We need more light. And you know, one of the things I learned very early in life is we can disagree without being disagreeable. We don't have to agree on everything to work on some things together. And when I talk about getting everybody around the table to bring about change, to reach out across the aisle, it's based on the knowledge that if you know who you are, if you know what you believe in, if you know who you're fighting for, then you're not threatened by talking to people who don't agree with you. They're not going to change you, but you might change them. That's why it's so important for us to reach out, because it's not just Democrats that are dissatisfied. Susan just described it. Independents, Republicans, they too want their country back. They too cherish its values and ideals. And so, yes, of course the drug and the insurance companies will fight us in Washington. They will resist any move that might diminish their profits, of course. Yes, there will be operatives who don't want to hear from me and will try to swift boat me and attack me, of course. But that's not who I'm reaching out for. I'm reaching out for you. I'm reaching out for voters. I'm reaching out for citizens. Because that's how we will build a majority for change. And once we have a majority, once we have a working majority for change, then we can afford to be polite. We'll say, yes, Mr. Insurance Company Man, we are going to do health care reform, whether you like it or not. We don't have to yell, we don't have to holler, because we've got the votes. That's how we will win an election, and that's why the polls showed me beating every single Republican candidate. I beat John, I beat Mitt, I beat Rudy, I beat Fred. I beat them all, because we know that they are about the past, and we are about the future, and that's what we can fight for in 2 days' time. insist that we don't have to settle for the world as it is. That we can reach for something better. That we can have a world in which every child is getting early childhood education and prepared for school. And a president who won't just talk about how great teachers are, but will reward them for their greatness by paying them high salaries and giving them more support and making sure they're not teaching to oppress. So they're not crowding out art and music and literature and all the things that make an education worthwhile. If you believe we can do those things, if you believe, then we can make sure that we are creating good jobs and good wages, and we have a tax code that is fair, and trade that works for every American. If you believe, then we can not just end the war, but we can end the mindset that got us into war. And I can go before the world as president and say, America's back. We are ready to lead again. And we will lead by helping poor countries help themselves. And we will lead by bringing an end to genocide in Darfur, because we're not a nation that took from Guantanamo to slaughter. And we will lead by closing Guantanamo and restoring habeas corpus. And you will have a president who has taught the Constitution and believes in the Constitution and will obey the Constitution of the United States of America. If you believe. That is what is possible right now. As long as we set aside the fear and the doubt, the cynicism and the pessimism, as long as we set aside the politics that says, don't bet on yourselves, that says we know better. Now there's a moment in the life of every generation, if they are to make their mark on history, where that spirit of hope comes through, where people finally embrace the difficult but noble task of remaking the world, block by block, state by state. That is the moment that we're in right now. This is our time. This is our moment. And Salem, if you will stand with me, if you believe that we owe the next generation the same chance as somebody owed us, if you believe in keeping the dream alive for those who still hunger for justice and still thirst for opportunity, if you are not willing to settle for what the cynics tell you have to accept, but you are going to reach for that world that you know in your gut is possible because you trust in the American people to make it happen, then I promise you, we will not just win this primary. We will not just win this nomination. We will not just win the general election, but together, you and I, we will remake this nation, and we will remake this world, and we will create the kind of America that all of us can believe again.